Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, the podcast all about animated features not made by Disney. I'm your host, Octaviano Macias, and I'm joined once again by Maria here. Do you feel like introducing yourself with any kind of thing?
Hey, I'm not Maria, I'm Avi. But thank you. Thanks for having me again. Always glad to be here. Hopefully we'll have a good show today. Another good show. I have nothing to advertise, so we can keep going.
This week's episode is, it's not going to be something that I haven't done before. I've certainly made some videos that don't focus on specific movies, but this is the first time I think in a while that I've done it with guests instead of just by myself. I'll be talking about the studio. We'll be talking about the studio Illumination, which for those of you who have seen the show who are knowledgeable in animation, you'll probably notice that I've yet to do a single movie from this company. I've done it for most of the major studios so far, like DreamWorks, Blue Sky, most of the other like Disney competitors. I've talked about at least one movie from them, and there's kind of a reason why I haven't talked about Illumination. And I don't know. Do you want to maybe say something before I bring this up?
This studio is rancid. That's all I have to say.
That's like the nastier, more aggressive version of what I was gonna say, but
Sorry.
it's fine. I look. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on anyone specifically, and I do want to make it clear that for the most part, when it comes to animation studios or any kind of filmmaking studios, I do want to support pretty much anyone out there as long as they're actually trying to make movies. Trying to put some heart into their work, even if it's not the greatest thing. But yeah, with Illumination, it's the closest I've seen in terms of a big budget studio that feels like they're kind of out to just make like those kind of bootleg movies that you see like at your local Walmart or Target, where it's like, okay, this is clearly not up, this is bootleg up, and we're just really putting this out just because your parents or your grandparents might not know what the hell they're buying and just see something that looks vaguely similar to what they think you like. That's kind of what Illumination is. Not entirely, I don't want to group them in right there, but it's on the verge of it because a lot of their stuff just feels cheap compared to a lot of the competition. And it's not because of the amount of money that they waste, because I know that is the kind of goal that they have as a studio, that they are trying to make these things on the cheap, which I can respect. I mean, if you want to save money, while making movies, that's great. But at the same time, if you're doing it to a point where you're just sacrificing everything else and that quality in your movies, it just feels lame.
Agreed. Like you said, it is better than bootlegged movies, but I don't know, man. Let's start with some examples. What movie you wanna start with?
Okay, so just because in case if someone just coming into this without knowing anything that they've done or just not too deep into the stuff, Illumination is the studio. It's owned by Universal. They're a French-based studio, which is kind of surprising considering that normally when you think of France as a filmmaking place, you think of like the artsy kind of stuff. So whatever. They've made several movies over the years. A lot of them are often hits, partially because yes, they don't have much of a budget to begin with, but also because they do make a lot of money as if they were big budget movies. But they of course got known through the Despicable Me, the first one, which I actually think is a fine movie. And if I ever do anything from them, that's probably going to be the first one I do, not just because it's their first movie, but at least it's the one that feels like they put the most effort into. But then you get into stuff like, okay, they made an Easter Bunny movie called Hop, then they made Despicable Me 2, and that's kind of where I feel everything went wrong with them. They've made the spin-off movies Minions. They're coming out with a Minions 2 this year. They did the Lorax Grinch remake, the Secret Life of Pets movies,
Sing.
and yeah, the Sing movies, and they're currently working on doing a Super Mario Bros. Movie. But yeah, it's just a lot of these movies don't feel like they have much passion or effort being put into them. Like I've heard different takes on it being like, okay, well, it's because they're cheap, which again, that doesn't really mean anything because another company like Blue Sky, even though I don't think they have the greatest movies around, well, when they were around since they got shut down, um, they at least made stuff on the cheap that I'm like, okay, look, I'm not too big on movies like Ferdinand or the Will Smith Pigeon movie, but at the very least, I can see like, okay, they at least were trying to make something decent, and in some areas, there actually are pretty good movies. But then you look like this Despicable Me 2, and it just feels like, okay, here's a checklist of stuff that kids like, and we're just kind of repeating that. Seeing both of them, at least from what I've seen, granted, I'll be fair in saying that I haven't seen some of these movies because I've just gotten so tired of the studio that I'm like, I don't feel like even bothering when I hear the same exact things. Like, okay, they have limited locations. A lot of the animation is just kind of being reused.
Reused
Uh,
assets and people,
and
maybe character designs. Unless they're like a major character that's gonna
yeah,
come out, then that's when they put the effort to make them stand out.
and even then, not really in some cases because, like, I know people made a joke about this, but I'm like, no, it is kind of weird that you see like in the Lorax you have the one star character um and then you have like the human owner of like the main character from Secret Life of Pets, and it's literally just like, oh, it's the one star but as a woman and with like normal modern day clothes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it extends even to their settings because like one of the things that I remember someone pointing out was that like, okay, you have and the first Despicable Me, it's like, okay, outdoors house is like Gru's house is this like haunted kind of Halloween looking place. Like it's very dark and everything. Inside, it's this bright, colorful thing. And in a way, it works for that movie just because it's kind of like, okay, so it's kind of hinting at, even though he wants to be a villain, his inside, he is a good person. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But then you get to like Secret Life of Pets, and you realize, like, okay, even though this is an apartment, not a house, the way the color palette on the whole place, the way the setting is set up, feels like the same generic kind of house. So like they just took what was in Gru's house and put it right there. And then you get to the Grinch remake that they did, and it's the same basic idea where it's like
Yeah.
you look at the house and it's the same exact color palette as these two other movies, and it's like this normal looking place, even though it's not. And again, maybe that's supposed to be like their attempt at doing the same thing with Gru, but with the Grinch, that like, oh, he's not really bad, but I don't know. By that point, it's like it just feels like you're being lazy. Like I know people are kind of hit or miss with like the live action Jim Carrey version, but at the very least, you got to admit that it was nice to make the cave look like this really trashy place that a Grinch would live in. I mean, he's named the Grinch, so it kind of makes sense that his place is not going to be so pretty, even if he is not, the worst guy around.
Yeah, because he's basically making do with what he has in the live action, considering he's an outcast. But then in this freaking animated one, he's like this posh, nasty little thing. I don't even know.
He's not
This
really a Grinch because when you look at it, and again, this is one that I never really watched from beginning to end. So I'll say that I don't know whether or not it's actually good or not, but from what I've seen, it's not good because I've seen clips of it. I saw at least the first 2 minutes, and clips throughout that where it's like he's not really acting like a Grinch. He's more like a cynical, snobby person because he's regularly attending like the Who's, like like the rest of the stores and all that, those other places. So it's like, whether it was the original cartoon that they did, the book, or the live action movie, it's pretty clear that this guy's an outcast and people don't like him. And doing it this way just makes it feel like, I mean, why is he even there at that point?
exactly a
Uh,
lot of the issues from the second one, or sorry, from the animated one, is that they're trying to make it seem like everyone likes him, and he's just not getting that, which isn't the point from the very first Grinch movie, the cartoon one, not the 3D one, and the live action one where it's like, we live, sorry, this is gonna sound stupid, but we live in a society where there's prejudice and shit. And that's what the first two touch upon, but the last one lacks. Where
yeah,
it's like, yo, all these, I don't know, this last Grinch just has a lot of personal issues, and everyone's trying to help him.
I don't know. And then there's thinking about just like the Dr. Seuss stuff, like they also did the Lorax, and I know this is still probably a hot take, but I would honestly say their version of the Lorax is easily the worst Dr. Seuss movie I've ever seen. Like I know people like to lump the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat movie and that spot, but I'm like, bad as that was, you have to consider that the Cat in the Hat is not really a story that was really made for like a cinematic kind of length. So in a way, it's kind of like, well, yeah, what did you expect? And there's, granted, I know this is kind of like depending on who you ask. There's at least some amusement at the fact that Mike Myers clearly didn't want to be there. I mean, it's been mentioned that apparently he was kind of forced into it due to contract reasons, and like the movie is clearly trash, so you can see that like it's not really comfortable. So there's kind of like a some fun and unintentionally in that, but with like the Lorax, it's like you're taking the story, and this is one of the things where I'm like, yeah, this is where it really shows, the problem with the studio is that you're taking the story that has like this very important message and just screwing it over because you're making it like the most marketable thing around, even though the whole story is against this kind of corporate merchandising shit. I mean, they even had ads for this for cars of all things, which I'm like pollution, like the kind of stuff that the book clearly says is bad for the land. But it's just this really cynical movie where I'm like, why did it even do this one if they weren't going to try to put some actual effort into doing the message right? Like, again, going with like another studio, like whether it's, like DreamWorks or Blue Sky, which, Blue Sky is probably the best one to go with just because Chris Meledandri, who's the head of Illumination, used to be involved with that. With those that at the very least, even under weaker stuff, like with DreamWorks, like I wasn't really too big a fan of like Home, over at Blue Sky. I didn't really care much about like Epic or some of the Ice Age sequels. It at least felt like, okay, when they at least tried to sit down to make a statement about something important, they would try their best to at least do it. Like even if they didn't really succeed, something like Ferdinand at least felt like, okay, they're at least trying to present this anti-violence message with some sincerity. With Lorax, it's just like, okay, well, so you kill the trees, and now we're trying to say trees are good, but why exactly are they good? And they do this whole thing where it's like, oh, it's because of the oxygen, but then it's like, how are these characters even breathing if you already killed all the trees from that? And I don't know, it just feels like it's a very cynical, and there's not really any kind of sincerity in it, which often kills these movies for me.
Yeah, I guess they try to fix that by saying that big company has air in a jar. Sorry, not a jar, a can.
Yeah.
So they're basically marketing off of something they got rid of to make money off of something that you need. The Lorax, honestly, I don't remember much of the movie. It was kind of like I watched it and it was whatever. But
See, I remember it just because I hate it that much.
It wasn't memorable. I don't know. I guess not everything's bad with Illumination. Not gonna lie, Despicable Me is probably one of their best works. And then Despicable Me 2 was good. I think their downfall was Minions. Because they were like, yo, people like Minions. Let's fucking do their own little movie. And they also like changed the origin of Minions. Because in the first one, Gru mentions that they're made out of like a failed experiment with like kernel corn, and that's hilarious. And like he treats them like people. And then you get the Minions movie, and it's like, no, they've always been there. So that's like an attempt at marketing these Minions. And
I
then we
mean,
also have, Minions: The Rise of Gru, which they'll go into more backstory, which we don't need.
yeah, okay, just because I don't want people insulting anyone. In terms of like the origin, I'm not because I haven't rewatched it recently. But is that actually ever mentioned in the movie? Because I know it is mentioned like in the background details, like when it came to like in the making of for the movie. But it was it ever actually stated in the movie?
I don't know. I'd probably have to rewatch it.
Okay, so then we both if anyone is gonna kill us, at least at the very least, we acknowledged it. But my general thing on that is like I still would argue that it's Despicable Me too. That it started on because and like yeah, I do remember kind of enjoying it the first time I saw it, but it was one of those movies where the more I thought about it, the more I disliked it because the more I felt that it was just kind of there wasting time. And like one of the big things for that one is that like okay, this is a spy movie, so it's like okay, you're gonna be doing like this big adventure, but then you realize it's all done within a mall, and it's kind of like okay, so it's not really much of a spy movie then, because it's like, and again, I get that this is done because they want to save money, have less sets to deal with and whatnot. But it's like even again going over to Blue Sky, you had movies that didn't really use much budget. Even Sony actually, like with the Claudia with a Chance of Meatballs movies, those weren't very high budget, especially the second one since that's more of an adventure movie. And you still had like all these different locations that they go to, so there's a lot more creativity there than just a mall. But
Yeah, considering they did Rio and they had like all those locations in Rio.
yeah, and these movies barely ever cracked anything over 90 million from what I remember,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how much it took to make them. But like with Despicable Me, um going into like with the Minions, I'll actually say that for me at least, surprisingly, the first Minions movie is one of the better Illumination movies, but that's not exactly a compliment in terms of it's one of the few where I'm like, okay, at least with this one, they at least do try to take the minions in different locations, and even though it is retconning the whole thing, with them being like these failed experiments, like kettle corn or whatever, I was mostly fine with that, just because I was like, okay, if the movie was just a series of shorts where it showed them throughout the history, um, topping out different villains. I kind of would have preferred that as a movie than having it stop in the 60s and then showcasing these new characters, which, to be fair, and I'll get into this more in a bit as to why it's kind of a double edged sword. But I do like some of the characters that they meet throughout the movie. Like there's like Michael Keaton shows up with his family, well, pretty much he's voicing like this evil villain with a family who's going to like this convention for evil people, and there's like Sandra Bullock with her like husband, and they're like an evil couple. So it's kind of like I do like those characters. They're actually fun ideas, but the problem is that they also don't really utilize them all that well. Like that was also my problem with the second movie. They have this really great villain called El Macho, who's like the
The
manliest
restaurant
man.
owner.
Yeah, like he's like the manliest man around. Like
Spoilers.
he faked his death, saying like, "Oh yeah, he jumped into a volcano that was active with like a nuke, while riding a shark." And I'm like, okay, this is funny stuff, but you don't do much with him because like when he's the restaurant owner, you don't really see much until like at the very end when it's revealed that oh yeah, he was alive all along. Drew figured this out right away, and we've kind of been walking around it without doing much with it. And it's still like you're not really doing much that was crazy. Like earlier when we saw him rob like an armored truck, using his bare fist, or drinking alcohol made out of like a cobra's venom or whatever. So I'm like, I don't know. It feels like they don't often utilize even their good ideas when they have them. Like with the whole minion thing with it being short stories, I think that would have been a better thing. But even then, they kind of chickened out, and I get why, but at the same time, how great would it have been to have actually seen minions in Nazi Germany? Like, just imagine if the minions were the ones who accidentally kill Hitler, because that's like the whole joke at the start of the movie that they accidentally kill all their evil leaders. So like, just imagine if like it's like that whole thing with like Hitler taking like the cyanide pill, but instead he was gonna eat like a banana or something, and one of the minions just took it and replaced it with a cyanide pill. I don't know. I think that would have been funnier, but you know, I don't know. It's just the laziness, and then of course they do have some good ideas in there. It's just that I never feel like they take advantage of it, and that's kind of lame because it's like, okay, I want to see those ideas that you have and just fully explore it. Just try to do something with it. Don't limit yourself based on, well, we got to save some money, so let's not have too many sets or too many action pieces or whatever with these characters. Just like, and then over focusing it on the minions because since they're the same basic character model, even if they change, some of them having like, extra eyes or less eyes or whatever.
Different color
Um,
eyes,
exactly. Like,
heights, and weights.
which I imagine is probably why the Minions movie actually lets them go to different locations because they're already saving so much money just repeating this one character model. I don't know, it just feels lame. Like even the upcoming Minions movie, which as of this time, just recording, it's not out. I'm not sure if it'll be out by the time this goes up on online, but with that one, I'm looking at it like, okay, the villains that they're showcasing are pretty creative because you got like, okay, here's like a 70s black exploitation kind of female action hero. You got this nun and the bad guy team. So it's like I do like these ideas for villains, but I don't know why. And I know, okay, look, I haven't seen the movie, but I feel like they're probably gonna once again just squander whatever interesting ideas they have there. Like I don't know, man. I feel like I'm going in circles at this point, but that's my general thing. They do have some interesting ideas, and they never take full advantage of them.
Yeah, other good ideas just end up being a flashback or a montage.
Yeah,
It's a
like
shame.
that third Despicable Me movie. Which, to be fair, that one I haven't watched from beginning to end, but I did watch bits of it because they would have it on at work all from time to time. So it's something that I'm like, okay, I've got at least a good enough idea, and I'm like, again, there's like a great villain voiced by one of the creators of South Park, and they're like he's like some former child star from the '80s, and he's like all of his tools are '80s based. Like even his design is like, oh yeah, he's got like the shoulder pads, the MC Hammer pants, and everything, and I'm like, okay, this is all really great. And then
Isn't
I
that just like a same era as the original villain, the guy with the bowl cut and the tracksuit? But this guy's,
Well, this one actually emphasized on it though, because that guy, I guess the look of it was like that, but like
but it didn't really touch on the era.
yeah, and his tools weren't really based on it because this guy, like literally, like even the tools that he would use, like he had like a bomb based off of like the Rubik's cube, because even though they're still a thing now, they were really popular during the '80s. So I don't know. My general thing is like even with that, like it is a fun idea, and from what I remember seeing, it was still kind of like, okay, we're gonna leave it behind for like this whole story with Gru and his
His twin
good twin
brother.
or evil twin, or I don't know what the hell it was supposed to be, but I don't know. I just don't give a shit about that. And look at that. That's already like a good chunk of Illumination's output. Other than that, you got the Secret Life of Pets, which the first one I'll say is the one that pretty much really killed the studio for me. I don't know if you ever had one of these movies where it was like, okay, I'm done with the studio.
I think it was Minions for me.
Okay,
Yeah, and
like
then Secret Life of Pets came out, and my siblings wanted to watch it, and we were just like, this movie fucking sucks. Like, obviously, everybody loves dogs.
yeah,
That's a good selling point. Everybody loves dogs. Everybody loves thinking about, oh, what's our dog doing while we're home? And then this movie kind of like they have like a cool, interesting montage at the beginning, giving us what we want, which is dogs and what they're doing. And then the rest of the movie is just like, oh, let's introduce all these characters that we're not gonna touch upon. There's too many characters on screen the whole time. There's gonna be, the little character with the big attitude, which is I don't
Kevin
know. I've
Hart.
never liked that. I've never liked that. What do you call it? Is it a motif?
Yeah, motif. Yeah,
I don't know. It just there. fuck this movie. That's all. That's all I have to say. They just it was very ambitious. They did well in the beginning, and that's probably the only part of the movie people remember because it's what they wanted. And then the rest of the movie was just wishy washy. Too many characters. Um, really bad humor
Yeah.
and too many bad jokes. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, okay, even by that point, I was already kind of getting tired of the studio, but that to me was pretty much like the death knell in terms of by that point, nothing I've, since that one, um, have I ever watched actually from beginning to end. Like everything else, I've only watched in parts or have just completely avoided it, if I'm completely honest. Because I was just like, okay, it's the same exact problems that I've had with the other movies, even if I thought parts of it were fine. With the other movies, with this one, I really just did not care for a lot of it. Um, and it's just a prime example of how lazy it all is because it's like, okay, from the get go, the premise is pretty much Toy Story, but with animals. Like, what do animals do, specifically pets, when people aren't around? So it's like, okay, whatever. We got another Toy Story up in here.
Yeah, and they even have like the outsider coming into this group of friends and the leader not liking that because it's overstepping his bounds and his whatever he's comfortable with.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a just Toy
it's
Story.
and I'm like, okay, like, and it's true, like what you said, like at the start with the montage, like that's actually really interesting and really cute just to see these animals just go about their daily lives, acting kind of animal like, but at the same time, because there's no people around, they're maybe taking advantage of little other things like here's a little bird, watching like Top Gun or whatever, and pretending to be one of the fighter jets. These animals throwing like little animal house parties or whatever. Like it is cute and it's interesting, but it gets worse for me just because once you get to the rest of the story, it's like, okay, so then you have this really long montage that in no way services the rest of the story. So now the one good thing you had going for it is kind of ruined in a way that way. By the end of the movie, they kind of repeat that, but instead, like it's like the closing version of that. And again, it's nice, but by that point, I'm just feeling like, okay, can you please hurry this up just so I can go home already? And again, it's like you have some interesting characters here and there that I'm like in a better movie and something where they might put more effort to, they could at least expand on it because there's like at some point a hawk voiced by Albert Brooks, who most people know as Nemo's dad on Finding Nemo. And it's like, okay, so now you got this hawk character who's gonna help them out, find the main character, but once he's introduced, it's just kind of there for like a few jokes, but he doesn't really add much to the story to the point that it's like, why was he even added in? There's like a Kevin Hart rabbit character who,
I
like,
fucking hate. Sorry.
I don't know. Okay, I'll say this much: I don't hate Kevin Hart. I think some of his stuff is good, some of his stuff is not so good, and to be fair, like not so much in terms of the idea of like, oh, this bunny character, well, like like what we were saying with the whole little character being loud and obnoxious, but like just that general concept of his character where it's like, oh, it's this pet rabbit who I guess was dumped by their former owner, wanted to get revenge on humans. I'm like, okay, that's actually a pretty interesting and fun idea that you could explore upon, but they don't really take advantage of it. And by that point, I'm just like, I don't know why was there that even there. Like most of the time, the movie is just having them chase after the main characters, and I'm just like, wouldn't it be better to actually try to explore upon that story, or maybe he tries to come up with like some kind of animal uprising? I mean, it'd be a bit out there, but at least it'd feel like you were actually doing something with that storyline. But yeah, I just did not care for it, and in all honesty, most of the movie is just them kind of wasting time because. And this is like the moment where I was just like, yeah, this is just horrible. When this came out on home video, we actually had it playing at work for like a good month or two.
My condolences.
And because there was, thank you, there was two TVs playing movies. One was that, and the other one would actually rotate a bit. I know it was like Finding Dory, even the Emoji Movie at some point played against it. I no, actually, you know what? At that point, no, this played longer than a couple of months. It actually played for almost a year. Now that I think about it, because yeah, the Emoji Movie actually played a bit against it, but other movies as well, even stuff that I didn't really like. But I'm like, you know what's the difference between those movies to this movie? Every time I walked by the Secret Life of Pets TV, I noticed that none of the stories seem to have moved along. And it's not that we were repeating the same scene; it was like literally playing the whole movie. But when it came to like whether it was Finding Dory, the Emoji Movie, or I think at one point there was maybe like the Sherlock Gnomes,
Oh my
um,
god.
and I'm like, okay, without even having seen, well, Sherlock Gnomes that was the only one that I've never seen, but the other two at least. But without even paying that much attention, I would notice those movies have already moved along with the story. Like you actually see different settings and different portions of the story. With Secret Life of Pets, where it was 10 minutes in or 40 minutes in, it was always feeling like, okay, here's animals just fucking around, and the main characters are lost. But no real progression, like in terms of have the characters changed at all? Has the setting changed at all? Nothing, to a point that I'm like, this is all very static. It's very much just in that small area, and they kind of trick you into thinking that it's like this big adventure by having the characters constantly fuck around and throw jokes, so that you think that something's happening when in reality nothing is happening.
Hmm.
So I was at that moment where I'm like, this is honestly my breaking point with this company. Like I felt it before, but this is the moment where I'm like, I'm done. I'm not gonna bother really looking at their movies, from beginning to end, bothering to seek them out unless I hear something that really suggests a change within what they're doing, because it's just full on laziness. Like again, I know that people often say like the Emoji Movie it was horrible, which yeah, fine, it was, but at the very least with that movie, I'm like, I feel like they at least tried to tell a story, because you know whether or not it's bad, and it's definitely bad, it's at least like, okay, I'm seeing them hop from different locations, and there is actual character development, even though it's not good,
Their
but
story beats too.
there's at least some effort. And even though I'm not a big fan of the animation in that movie, at the very least, even from a visual standpoint, it's like, okay, they're at least trying to make something creative out of, like, Spotify or whatever apps that they jump into, even if it's not exactly great, versus the Secret Life of Pets, where it's all like visually it's just a town, apartments, and
All
that's
the
it. Like,
dogs have the same eyeballs. They all have that weird, tiny little lip looking thing. They all have human teeth. Dogs look hideous in this movie. The only dog like feature is like the fur, the ears. They like shrunk the legs, I guess. But
yeah,
these I fucking hate these dog designs. The only animal that stands out is the hawk and the bunny because they don't have the same eyes as the rest of the cast.
yeah, it's like they at least try to make him something different, because even the cat in this movie kind of looks like no different than the dog. Is just that instead of having the droopy ears, they just gave him like gave her like the little pointy ears.
Exactly. She's got the same eyeballs and lips, and that's it.
And again, like that kind of stuff wouldn't hurt the movie too much if it was at least telling a better story, but it's not. So
But we're talking about Illumination. They all look like this. They all have the
yeah,
same eyes. They all have the same teeth. The Grinch has these teeth and the lips and these eyes. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, just, we get you're a studio and you want to have like a signature look, but it's not this. Don't make it this because this is disgusting. Look what you did to these cute little dogs,
I don't know. Like, of course, after that, you would have movies like Sing,
which
which
have the same eyes and lips and eyes.
I've never actually watched from beginning to end, because, like I said, by its Secret Life of Pets, I was just done.
Good.
But with that one, it's like, okay, nothing I've heard is all that appealing. Most of what I'm seeing is just like the same generic stuff. The only thing that is kind of charming, and even then not really, is just like the trailers are pretty much built. Were pretty much built on different characters singing different songs that you would recognize from the radio. So it's like, okay, that's kind of, I mean, it's not great, but it's, something kind of different, but it's nothing that really hooked me in. And from what I'm told, nothing really changed. I mean, Secret Life of Pets 2, I saw parts of it, mostly because my sister had to pretty much look into it before working at Universal, because I guess there was questions around it. I don't know. There's like the Universal ride that they have, which, by the way, fuck that Universal ride. I mean, this is a small aside. I know it's technically not Illumination's fault, but I don't know. Have you ever been to that ride in Universal?
No.
Okay, so I'll tell you this much. Neither have I, but it's not because I have not tried it. Because I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll give it a shot. Because there's some movies that are shitty but have good rides, and whatever. I'm gonna have my fun. It turns out that I am too big for this ride.
Oh no.
Because when I tried getting on the seat, like I put the latch bar down, and I guess like the green light that it had wasn't going, so I was like, okay, whatever. This is not an intense ride from what I've heard. It's just like a little dark ride. I'm just gonna be seeing locations, but pretty much the workers came over, stopped it, and were like, yeah, you can't get on this ride because it's apparently too big for you. Which I'm like, I mean, you're too
Bruh.
big for it, and I'm like, look, I get it. I'm not the skinniest guy around, but at the same time, it's like how small of a ride can this be if I can't fit into it? But
I guess they
anyways,
just expected only kids to ride it.
apparently it's kids and adults. This is actually a problem with Universal as a whole. Actually, I mean, I was able to get onto the Harry Potter ride a couple of years back before COVID, but I guess now I'm too big for it now too.
Are you kidding me? For reals?
Yeah,
What the fuck?
and I'm like, look, again, I know I'm not the skinniest guy around, but I'm like, it's not. I don't think I've gained that much of a difference from like a year before COVID to now. But whatever. Point is that was kind of lame. But anyways, with Secret Life of Pets 2, I know that one is more episodic in terms of its story. So at the very least, from what I saw, that was kind of an improvement in terms of like, oh, okay, at the very least, I know that some story is happening, but that's only because they have like three or four different storylines going on at the same time. But even then, it's not a very interesting thing. Like you got Kevin Hart as Super Bunny or whatever, trying to solve some problem. The main character's off in a farm and some other bullshit about one of the dogs trying to be a cat. And I don't know, I don't know, it wasn't really all that great. I mean, the only thing that was kind of funny to me from what I saw was just that for anyone who is aware of the stuff. The main character of the original movie couldn't come back for the second one because the main character was voiced by a comedian named Louis C.K., who was basically got a lot of sexual harassment allegations. Apparently, he would masturbate in front of certain women or whatever.
Oh shit.
So they couldn't get him back because there was like, look, we don't want this controversial figure here. So they got Peyton Oswald here, the guy who voiced Remy in Ratatouille. And it's kind of funny because one, they don't sound alike, and two, a lot of the humor that the character had from the first movie was kind of based around Louis C.K.'s style. So now you got this character who's based around Patton Oswalt's style, and it's like this character was not based around that. It'd be like if you took out of like the genie from Aladdin. I don't know, maybe had like in the sequel they had like Chris Rock doing the voice and doing his kind of impersonation. It's like this is not the person.
We're talking about the fucking animated genie, right?
Yeah,
The one based off of
Robin Williams.
yeah. Isn't that what they basically did with the live action? It's just Will Smith trying to do Robin Williams.
I mean, see, with that, at the very least, you get the idea that this is supposed to be like a completely different version. I mean, like, imagine if they did a continuation of it, but had it be like Chris Rock doing Chris Rock stuff
Oh
instead
my
of
god.
doing Robin Williams, even trying to do Robin Williams, because I know they did have like the animated genie, like in the TV show, where it was voiced by someone else because they couldn't get Robin Williams for that. And even though that guy completely bombed it, which wasn't really his fault. I mean, he was kind of put in a box where he kind of has to pretend to be Robin Williams, but doing it poorly.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm describing is more like imagine if the genie just decided to stop acting like Robin Williams and started acting like Chris Rock just because Chris Rock was voicing him.
I see that.
But yeah, you got that. This were only three. Like I said, I just did not care for it from what I saw. They recently did Sing 2, didn't bother watching it, and I have no interest in watching it. Which one of the weirdest things for me was that that trailer completely spoiled itself because by the end they're like, oh, because in like in the early trailers, like, oh, there's this legendary singer, well, who's a lion, played by Bono of all people,
Oh my god, yeah, with the gruffy ass voice.
and it's like, oh, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna come back? And then the trailer started showing like, oh yeah, he comes back on stage. So it's like, well, you kind of told me what happens in the movie, so thank you for that. And then the Minions movie that's coming out this year is doing the exact same thing because it's like, okay, so Gru is up against these other evil villains because I guess he wanted to join their group, but then he screws up something, steals something from them, just to kind of prove his worth. And now the trailers are showcasing like, oh yeah, the minions from the first Minions movie are prominent in this one, so that's why it's called Minions instead of Despicable Me baby years or some shit. And it's showcasing them turning into different animals to fight the villains who turn into like these dragons, ogres, and shit. And it's just like, um, okay, so you're just telling me exactly what happens at the end of the movie. Thank you for that. I mean, not that I was really that excited, but like, has it become that cynical for these people that they're like, look, we know we're gonna make money regardless of whether or not we tell you exactly what happens at the end of the movie. I don't know, and it's sometimes I do have to wonder whether or not it's even the head of the studio or what exactly it is, because technically speaking, DreamWorks is now also being run by Universal, and they do have Chris Meledandri also overseeing DreamWorks and stuff. But I'm like, okay, granted, I know we're still kind of fresh into that era. They have like the recent DreamWorks films from How to Train Your Dragon 3 till now has all been from this company, so it's, I mean, well, at least under his leadership, not really in Illumination, but the same guy who's running Illumination is running this DreamWorks now. And I'm like, okay, well, at least with them, even if they've had some misses recently, like the Spirit movie that came out last year, at the very least, I feel like they still are putting more effort into their stuff than Illumination. Like, I recently saw The Bad Guys, and that was a really good movie. It was really fun. So again, I don't know what exactly is causing the problem with this studio. I mean, my only guess was maybe it's because they don't have a lot of different people working on this stuff, because I know most of the directors have been the same from the beginning. Like, that's only really changing with their next movie, which is the Mario Bros. Movie. They actually got the guys from Teen Titans Go to direct it, which I know people hate them. I don't give a shit. I love Teen Titans Go. So at the very least, that is currently my only hope for the studio right now, that they finally got different people to direct one of their movies soon, and more importantly, that since it's a Nintendo made movie, I kind of feel like Nintendo is kind of gonna be strict on them on it, so they're kind of have to make it at least decent. I don't know. I don't know. At least I feel like I'm at least trying to be hopeful for this studio, just because I don't really like being down on them for all this shit, even though they fucking suck.
I don't know, but this studio seems to work cheap, work fast, and at least I don't know. I think a lot of the rendering in their movies looks great, like the lighting, the textures and stuff like that. And that's probably what attracted Nintendo for that Mario movie, and the fact that they work cheap. So it's probably all like a financial, you know, they're driven financially.
Yeah.
And I don't think this movie is gonna make it. It's riding on your nostalgia, and that's probably why people are gonna go watch it. And it's probably gonna look great, but
I mean,
by the list of these movies and the way the majority of these movies are written,
it's got a lot going against it. I mean,
yeah,
that's the other thing. I do acknowledge that, like, there's very little actually going for it. And I do acknowledge part of it is just nostalgia, because I'm like, look, I don't want to see a bad Mario Bros. Movie. I know we already have the live action one, but at least with that one, there was kind of an interesting idea there. Is that it really shouldn't have been Super Mario Bros. Because it's
exactly.
pretty much not. Like
Yeah.
if that movie was named anything else, it probably would be known as like an '80s classic right now. Like not really one of the best movies, but well, not the '80s. It's actually from the '90s. But point being is that it would be remembered as someone like a cult classic, like something that got popular over time, even if it wasn't that well known at the time.
Hmm.
But at least with the Mario thing, I like the only thing that again is giving me hope is that Nintendo is a very picky company, so they might be able to do something, especially considering that this is the first time they're actually reaching out to another studio to do one of their things since the original Mario Bros. Movie. Like apparently they were so picky about it that like back in the early 2000s there was actually plans for a Metroid movie being done by the guy who the director's name is John Woo. He's known for like a lot of action movies. Like he
Hmm.
did Face Off, that apparently just fell apart because of certain reasons. So I'm hoping that maybe it's actually good, but I acknowledge that it's got a lot going against it. I mean, the only other things that have given me some hope is again, it's got directors that are different from the studio and directors that at least I don't care if other people don't like. I do like their work on Teen Titans Go. Um, and at the very least, I think like, okay, well, there's been leaks from like supposed test screenings of this movie. People have been kind of parroting the same thing, so it kind of seems likely where the animation is at least more akin to like a Sony animated movie than a Illumination
Hmm.
movie. Um, and apparently they do restrain themselves from doing like some of the usual stuff that you see in these kinds of movies. Like apparently there's no fart jokes. The characters for the most
Thank
part
God.
are not acting like stupid versions of themselves. Like they are kind of silly because they got certain actors in those roles, but they're not like, okay, we're gonna turn the Goombas into like the minions or whatever. Because that's the other thing with Illumination is that a lot of their movies, if you really look at it, have like minion like characters all around. Like the Lorax had like the bears and the fish and whatnot acting like the minions. One of their earlier movies had Hop had like little baby Easter chicks acting like the minions. So it's kind of like, okay, if they're avoiding these things, I'm hoping they're at least trying with this one. Like even if it's just okay, that's at least a big positive step forward if they can keep at it. But yeah, there's so much more. Like I know people laughed when they revealed the cast for the Mario movie and we're like, oh yeah, this is why it's gonna be bad. But I'm like, no, if this movie is bad, it's because of the studio that's behind it. Like the cast, for the most part, I think are fine, except for like Chris Pratt is like the only one that I think is weird in that because I don't see him as Mario. But at the very least, I'm like, okay, Jack Black, like all the other people that they got. I'm like, okay, I could kind of see like Seth Rogen. I know people find to be a weird choice, but I'm like, Seth Rogen is kind of like a fun, easygoing guy, like in a lot of his movies, which is kind of like Donkey Kong's personality, especially in his games. So I think it's fine as long as you don't, force in the Seth Rogen laugh.
I
But
think that's the selling point. You need a Seth Rogen laugh in the movie, otherwise it's not gonna.
I mean, it'd be funny if they just save it for like the very end. Like, okay, we went through the whole movie without it, and then like Mario says like the end, and
And
Donkey
then he's
Kong
like,
Logan.
ha.
So I don't know. From that perspective, I'm like, okay, I actually don't have a problem with the cast, and I'll say that is one of the very few areas that I'll give some props to Illumination. Is that I think their cast are usually fine. I don't. I know a lot of people hate the whole celebrity voice acting thing. I don't really have a problem with it as long as they put in some effort. Because like whether our people's thoughts on like the Grinch, Despicable Me, or whatever, I'm like, okay, I like Steve Carell as Gru. He's doing a voice. He's not just being Steve Carell. Benedict Cumberbatch was the Grinch in the Grinch, and I think he did a great job. I don't really care for that voice for that version of the character, but I think as like a voice performance, it's fine with what he's given. Um, Matthew McConaughey is like the little koala character from Sing, and I'm like, again, if you look at the trailers, it's like it doesn't sound like Matthew McConaughey just being Matthew McConaughey. It sounds like Matthew McConaughey doing a character. So I appreciate that kind of effort. So on that's like one of the very few things that I give them props for is that they do tend to get celebrities who at least try to do voices for these characters. But I don't know. I don't know, man.
It's all good, dude. I'm kind of wondering why they didn't go back to what was that studio, Legendary Entertainment, because I think they produced, one of Nintendo's other IPs, Pokemon. They did Mewtwo Strikes Back. Or no,
Oh,
no, no, they did the first one. They did the first one, and then they also worked on Detective Pikachu, and those two were really high-grossing movies and really good movies in general. And
so
so the
in
fact
terms,
that they went back to Illumination for this new Mario movie, it's kind of like,
I mean, it's weird until you realize that the Pokemon Company actually like they're owned by Nintendo, but not entirely. That's why they're able to get away with that because with the Pokemon Company, they don't really follow Nintendo's rules. Like they do have, like Nintendo does have a majority stake, which is of course why the games are exclusive to them. Um, but yeah, like Nintendo doesn't really have much of a say in terms of like, okay, this is what you guys are doing. So that's why they're able to go off in some directions while Nintendo is going with a completely different direction. I don't know how much of it is true, but apparently, um, prior to going with Universal, there actually was plans for them to go with someone else, which they were actually going to go with Disney because a lot of this hinged on like the whole theme park, and you got your Disneyland, but I guess Universal was the one that impressed them more with it, just because um, of how Hogwarts turned out. So I don't know, man.
in the end, we'll never know.
Uh,
That's the
uh,
way the cookie crumbles.
fucking Walker Crockett.
Mm.
But I don't know. I guess to basically sum it up, I don't hate Illumination, but I kind of hate them in that I want them to actually do better. I normally want more studios to do better. Like it's not just like, oh, I'm worshiping this one specific studio. Like I do like seeing competition. I do like seeing you know people making these movies. Put out stuff that works. And look, even if it doesn't work, at the very least, I prefer when they at least it's clear that it's like a specific person's like a like vision, or like at least people trying to make something, because it's better to see something that doesn't turn out so good, that at least has some effort, versus something that is just made for like cash that isn't good. um as of this moment, I really don't have much hope. I do hope at the very least that Nintendo maybe straightens them out a bit, just because I feel like there's probably more guidelines that they have to follow with that. But I don't know. I just I don't know. I like at the end of the day, that's the main reason why I've been avoiding doing the specific studio for any of their movies, just because I don't know if it'll be worth it to even talk about them. If most of them I'll probably walk away disliking, and for the exact same reasons, because there's a difference between complaining about one movie and then finding like this specific reason is what's wrong with it, and then finding another movie where it's like, okay, that's what's wrong with it. Like if I were comparing it like to something like DreamWorks, if I talk trash about like Shrek the Third, the complaints I have there won't be the same as the complaints I'll have for something like Home. So at the very least, even if I'm talking about movies I don't like, I'll be able to talk about stuff that feels different. And if I'm just repeating myself with Illumination with their movies, then I don't really feel like that's worth even discussing.
Yeah, especially since a lot of the issues with the movies are the same.
Yeah,
And like you said, when you look at other studios, it's like, it's a hit or miss, but at least you can point out the misses, and they learn from that. And a lot of the times we get some good movies out of that. But Illumination is just like, we make these movies cheap. We're not here, for an amazing epic story or character development. We're not here for memorable stories. We're here to have, an IP of something that sells and just wring it until it's dry.
yeah,
And obviously, they're going to make more money than what they put into it, considering how cheaply these movies are made.
yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything else to add to this? I kind of feel like I've already been through the whole thing.
Um, I guess as you mentioned, like I don't. There's some movies that I did like, just Despicable Me, because there's a story behind it, but like it just degraded. Well, the other movies just like degraded over time, and it's unfortunate. And that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry,
I don't know.
Illumination. I've never had anything good to say about you.
So I don't know. Again, I don't want to hate you guys at Illumination. I have no disrespect for the actual people working there. I know you're probably trying something, but I wish that would actually come through on your work. So in that regard, it's like the work you produce is lacking. Um, I don't hate you guys for it or anything, but I do wish something would change so that it wouldn't feel like I'm being negative on you guys specifically. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can really say on that. So I just want to say thank you for listening on this. That was my co-host for this week, Addie or Maria or whatever she wants to call herself right now.
Never gonna know. Next week I might be something else. Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah, probably Bob.
So
Or Minions. Wait, isn't there a minion named Bob?
yeah.
It all comes full circle. I'll be Bob next week. I'm sorry. You can see him crying in the club.
Um. Anyways, and of course, I'm your host, Octaviano Macias. I just hope you keep on listening, and you come back next week for whatever I end up doing. I don't know. Maybe I'll do an anime or something
Or we could just watch Cats
someday.
someday.
This is the second video in a row that I'm ending with someone bringing up cats. So
Please.
cats you later. Thank you for coming on and listening to me today. If you enjoyed it, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow my podcast. It's on Podbean, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And if you want to support me even more, there's always the option of Patreon. Patreon is a great way to support artists, and with that, you can always put in $1 or even more. It's all up to you, all just to help produce the show and other things I may do. Thank you again, and I hope to see you in the coming future.